Hi everyone, my name is Alejandro Mesas, and today I'm going to be doing a quick demo of how can you implement your testing of your data pipeline. Normally when you have a data pipeline, the problem that we all face is in one side you have the code that transforms your data, could be Spark or Beam using Python or Java. On the other hand, you also have your pipeline per se that is going to be a schedule. You have a DAG in there, and you always have the question, how do I implement the CI/CD pipeline, either for the code that I have, for the pipeline, and after, how can I make sure that whenever it's executed with the production data, it's actually going to be working as expected. So for this reason, I normally try to explain this with a diagram in top level, but the problem is that it gets a little bit too abstract, and then people always have maybe the question, okay, how do I map this to actual code? So to try to solve that, let's see if I achieve the goal, we are going to be using this article that is in the Google Cloud. And then in this article, it is using Cloud Build in order to implement the actual CI/CD pipeline. Of course, you could use something like Jenkins, but here with Cloud Build, among other advantages, all serverless, so no infrastructure for you to manage. We will be also using Airflow as a scheduler of the pipeline that we have, and we will be using via Cloud Composer, which is the managed version of Airflow. And finally, we are going to be using as example some Java code in Apache Beam that will implement the word count. So without further ado, before I jump into the code, this is what you all want to see, let's look a little bit into the different steps and the workflow that we are going to have here. So in this example, this is something that you normally would have as well. You are going to have a Git repo, and in this Git repo, what you have is definitely your data processing code. By data processing code, I mean the Java, Python code that actually do the transformation. You also have the workflow code, and the workflow code in this case is the pipeline. So we are going to be having one Python file that will implement the DAG that will be deployed in Airflow. And we will be also looking into the pipeline, the configuration of the CI/CD pipeline. So normally what you're going to do as a developer, you will have your branch, you will implement your changes in the branch, you will do a pull request, and after the pull request will get merged into development environment and then into main in order to be finally deployed. So what we implemented here is, first of all, we are going to have a separate project for the test environment. And here we are going to see a Cloud Build pipeline that will be triggered whenever changes have been merged into main branch. The pipeline, and we will see the details after, first of all, is going to do unit test of your Java code. After, it's going to build the jar, this fat jar with the dependencies that you need. It will also deploy the DAG into your Airflow test environment. This DAG, in this case, we are not doing unit test of the DAG, but definitely there is very good tools for that. I will show you afterwards. And what we are going to also do is upload some files, some mock files that we have in order to, whenever run the test DAG, to check if the input and the output of the data is what we expect. This test file could be, of course, in your case, maybe already in a packet. You don't need to upload them every time. So after all this run properly in your test environment, what is going to happen is that the Airflow will also check the output of the DAG, and it will push a message in a pub subtopic. This message in a pub subtopic will be listened by a Cloud Build pipeline via trigger, and then whenever there is the message in there, what you will have is the option to manually approve or not the deployment of this pipeline in production. You could do that automatically. There's if you are up to you, but I think it's actually quite nice sometimes, like to do the manual approval of this. So then once you approve, you say, well, I see what were the changes, I see where's that coming from, and then I approve and I would like to deploy that into production. So what you will do here is like you will upgrade your test jar into your production environment, right? So the same jar is going to be literally copied to production in the production project and the production jar packet. And then what you are going to also do is deploy your DAG in your production airflow environment. This DAG will be triggered however you configure. Maybe it's a schedule every hour, every day to build a report. That doesn't really matter for the exercise. Something that we are not seeing here, and it could make sense, many companies do, and we recommend as a best practices, is to have also a staging environment. By staging environment, I mean after you test everything with the mock data, you would have here a staging project. Your staging project could have access to a sample of the data, of the production data, in order to just run the pipeline with 5%, 3%, whatever makes sense for you of the data, see that actually that is working properly with the production data, and then after upload into the production project. So without further ado, before I jump into the code, I would like to highlight something. If you take a look to this article, you will see that it's very well explained, what are the different steps that it's doing, but there is something that I want to highlight. So here, for learning purposes, all the environment and infrastructure is created via either command line, just going to the console, click, create new topic, etc. So this is something that in my opinion help a lot for learning purposes, but whenever you are going to do that into production, you would definitely need to have all this like templatized in a Terraform template, right? So the idea would be to deploy, to build one template that actually is doing all those steps of creating the cloud build, of it in the bucket, etc. So in that way, in an easy way, you could just deploy your template, and for any team who want to implement something like that, they will be taking care of filling up the code, but the steps are going to be already in there. I'm going to be implementing myself a Terraform script doing that, so just feel free to reach out if you want to have access to this. And now I think it's time to jump into the code. All right, so this is the code that I pulled from the repo. The repo is actually a link in the article. So then here, as I said, you have, first of all, the data processing code. And then in the data processing code, this is a Java example. It is using Apache Beam. You see, loading all the dependencies. Well, this is not an Apache Beam class, so let's go to here. So pretty much what this is doing is creating a pipeline that is going to have a big collection, creating some files, and after read those files, split into words, and then count how many times appear one given word. So this have a test, unit test. So this is something you normally do whenever you have some code. You should do unit testing, and then here we build everything with the Maven. So that's the POM file of the Maven. You can add the plugins that you need. Here you will build your jar, etc. It could be Maven, it could be Gradle if you're using something else, but pretty much this describes how to build this jar with all the dependencies. So far so good. So now you also have here your workflow DAGs. Those are using Airflow. We are implementing a pipeline that's going to be like a scheduled DAG that is going to have, just quickly linking into example, well, variable to what is the bucket of the input data, output data, Here, well, it's hack the date. That is something you normally will be using the date of the execution. And then you have parameters, the zone, the region, and that's probably the important part. Here in Airflow, as you know, you can have different operators. In this case, we have only one Apache Beam Java code, and then we are using the Dataflow Java operator. Normally you would have here like different steps, like maybe I get the data from one bucket to another bucket. I may have the Apache Beam or Spark job that transforms the data, and after loading to BigQuery, and maybe after you would create a materialized view, for example. In this case, it's very simple. We have one single DAG, and maybe let's look how this is going to be shown whenever we deploy. So that's this. And then here, if we go to the graph, we see that actually we have only one single node because we have only one step in our pipeline. Very simple. And now let's jump into something a little bit more interesting, and to me one of the key part of this demo. I also implemented here a data pipeline test. What is that doing? Well, you know, so your process receive the parameters, and then here is the important part. So what it will do is it will call the pipeline that we just saw that execute the Java code, and then after it will download the value of the output. And let's look here. After you run the main DAG, you will download here the output of the data. That's something you can definitely improve here. We know we execute the data flow job with 3 workers. That's why we know we have 3 files. We downloaded 3 files. And the important part here is that we are going to compare the output of the pipeline, not only the Java code, but also the end-to-end pipeline Airflow. And we will compare the results using here this library that we have. And then after they compare and succeed, you will publish a message into the PubSub topic. Right? Once again, we will call the main DAG. We will download the results. We will compare the results with the expected value, and then we will publish a message. So here are the value. You have the input data and the output results. Of course, you could have this already saved in a bucket. There is no difference. And now let's see how look this pipeline. In here, we have this work on validation, and this is going to be the one that run, like I said, in the testing Airflow. And when we look into the graph, we see that, you know, it's going to be calling the previous job that we saw. After download the results, then here you download also the reference data that you are going to compare. You compare, and if everything is fine, then you publish the message into the PubSub topic. So with this, before we maybe look into the code, let's make a small change here. Something matter. Do a commit. New line. Sorry, I need to go to the folder. Alright, and then what I will do here is I will push now this change that I just made. Yes, authorize to push. Alright, so this is going to be triggering now the cloud build pipeline. So let's give it some minutes, and while this is running, I will show you also here the code that you have available, and that's going to be build, test deploy. So this is the code that you need to do have in order to implement the cloud build CICD. So you see here, well, what this is doing is checking out the code of your repo. It will build the jar that inside is calling the testing. This is called here to bundle all the dependencies. And then here you run some unit test in your Airflow. Remember, here we have some classes to compare, so that's going to be the testing of your DAG, unit test of your DAG. Then here, well, we pretty much just copy the files into a bucket. Remember the testing file, you could have them already in there. And then we copy the input file, what's going to be the output. And then here we do set the variable in the composer in order to start using now the new jar that we have. And we deploy the test jar. So this is deploying the comparison tool to be more specific. And here you deploy the test jar. You deploy also the validation pipeline. Remember, we have here one DAG that is doing the test and another DAG that is doing the validation of the test pipeline. And then here we deploy, and we have here a small script that is going to be in order to wait until the job have been deployed. So if you remember, actually I did now a small push just to add a new line. If we go to Cloud Build, let's open this in a new tab. In Cloud Build, we should be seeing now the execution of the previous commit and push in Git, right? You can go inside, you can see where are the steps that is executing. So it's actually already triggering. Okay. Let's go maybe here to the Airflow part. Let's see if already run the job. Validation. Let's see the step that is right now. Alright, so it seems like it's running the word count. Okay. Which makes sense. And then if you want to see how this is working, you go here, data flow. Let's open this in a new tab. And then here we see running. So it's not running yet. Okay. So in a few moments we will be seeing how the job is running, the data flow job, execute the transformation, and after we'll go for the comparison of the results. While this is happening, let me go quickly back to the code, and I will show you what's going to happen after the pipeline works properly and the message gets pushed into production. So here you will see that the steps that we will do whenever the new pipeline finishes, the message gets into production, is we will do the copy the jar into the production environment. Here, well, we check out the code again because we are going to need that to deploy the production DAG that is also inside the repo. And then here in the middle, well, you can see that it's pretty much copying the test file because this is a testing example. You set the jar variable in Composer in order to Composer use the new reference, and well, you deploy the new DAG into the production. Important here, we are deploying both into the same Airflow. Normally you would have one Airflow that is going to be for test specific, and then this pipeline will copy the things into the other Airflow. Your developer would have full control of the test environment, but not in the production environment. So that is always something to keep in mind. Alright, so don't see here the job running. Here, there you go. So the job work count is running right now, and then here, whenever it finish, we will see that it do the transformation. Okay, what else? While this is working, I also want to cover quickly one aspect. As you saw, and I mentioned before, all these infrastructure should be provided with Terraform. Please do it like that. And also, in order to set up your account where this workflow will run on top of, I recommend you to take a look to the Cloud Foundation Fabric. This is a set of Terraform script that our PSO team produced in order to implement in an easy way your setup of your account. Now I'm going to the full picture, right? How to create the different project that you have, billing setup, networking, security, etc. And then after here is where you will implement the workflow that we just saw, for example. Something also interesting in here is if you need some reference Terraform script in order to know maybe how to deploy the composer, then please go here, blueprint, data solutions. So you have some nice example. This is one of them, like how to deploy composer. So remember all the clicking and command line you will need to implement. So take a look to those Terraform script and use them as a base. Same here, Data Platform Foundation, right? So this is a Terraform template that help you to create like different projects, maybe one project for the orchestration tool. Here you will have all your tests of your production environment, etc. So just as a reference. And now let's go back to see how the job, the job is still running. Actually, I already finished. So then here, now after it have finished and it run properly, what we should see is, if you remember in Cloud Build, here it finished. This is the execution of the test environment. And then here we have a new run that is waiting for us to approve, right? So if we are happy, we can check the result of the test. That we can say manually, okay, approve, deploy new version of the demo. And then what this will do now is copy the jar into the production, Airflow, deploy the DAG into the production environment, etc., etc. So pretty much the what's executing now is this pipeline that we saw before in code. Okay, so that's how you specify what is you're looking to the branch. Those are the variables that you have here, right? So remember all those different pipelines, we have variables to set up the input and output of the data. And with this, I am pretty much done with the demo. I hope you enjoy the demo. Please go to this repo, this article, if you want to know more, if you want to implement. You also have the link here to the code. And yeah, as I said, I'm gonna be working into the Terraform templatize of this. If you are interested, just let me know and we can work on that together. That's it. Thank you very much from my side, and see you in the next video. Ciao.